I usually like to do like a more basic question before we start, just so that we're kind of like all on the same page. But what is MARV Automotive?
Hi, let me take that. This is Sanjay Krishnan. Thank you, Josette. Good to see everybody. So MARV Automotive is a powerful, configurable, and extensible data management platform. It allows you to analyze and introspect large data on-premise or in the cloud, train machine learning models, and generate reports, all through a modern web-based interface. It's based on open source MARV robotics with add-ons and extensions specific for use cases. That summarizes in a nutshell what MARV Automotive is.
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Sanjay. What kind of analyses are possible with MARV Automotive?
Well, let me take that one.
Okay.
The basically whatever you need. Whenever new data arrives in your you have vehicles driving around on the street, and you're recording data on them. And once that when the test ride is done, that data is uploaded into MARV Automotive. And whenever new data arrives that way, MARV extracts metadata and key performance indicators. For example, which car was driving when and where, how did the autonomous system perform, which sections of the ride were autonomously driven, did something noteworthy happen, is there anything to do for our developers to investigate? In addition to the already included algorithms, you can extend MARV to extract custom key performance indicators specific to your use cases. For example, with a localization error, once the data is in MARV, developers can use the web front end to find outliers, like where the algorithm responsible for localizing the car in the real world performed badly or especially good, and look into these data sets for further analysis and debugging. In addition to find outliers, MARV enables us also to track changes of that localization error or any other key performance indicator over time, and in that sense to identify regressions of your algorithms.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering that question. I do have another question that's coming up. How does an autonomous driving company use MARV?
So I can take that first, the data analytics part, which is what MARV is really good at. For example, an autonomous vehicle developer or operator, even with a small number of vehicles, has a huge amount of data. And you can imagine that amount of data is being generated just through logs of test runs coming from camera, radar, LiDAR, dozens, often hundreds of sensors. So using our MARV Automotive, this data can be queried to answer questions like how many miles did that car drive autonomously? Or how many times did the vehicle engage the brake because a stop sign was detected? All of these you can imagine are really important for developing fine-tuning an autonomous driving algorithm. And these are all made possible by the ability to define and run custom queries using MARV. Secondly, there's visualization of time synchronized data from different sensors, which is an extremely useful tool for developers. In a software defined vehicle where different sensors and actuators are connected through central computers, time synchronized views reveal insights that can improve performance. For example, synchronization of camera, GPS, and instrumentation data based on timestamp and viewed side by side enables developers to debug and fine tune the autonomous driving software stack that's being developed. And making all of this possible through a web-based interface makes it extremely easy to get started with MARV. Second, there's also the reporting of events, for example, for DMV. Reporting disengagement events for government or authorities, or in the case of California, DMV requires finding a set of disengagements from the data sets. And it's also valuable to know if the disengagement was initiated by the vehicle or the safety driver. And these types of queries are easily automated using MARV Automotive. And finally, for training of AI algorithms requires labeled data, MARV integrates very well with all the common AI frameworks on the one hand and specific labeling tools on the other. So that way it coordinates and supports the workflow of identifying low confidence detections, labeling them, and retraining networks. So you can see MARV Automotive is, in summary, a really important tool as part of the workflow for any kind of autonomous system development, debugging, fine tuning, introspection, and eventually deployment.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sanjay. I do have another question that's rolling up. How easy or difficult is it to create custom analytics using MARV Automotive?
It's very easy.
Okay.
MARV is a clean and pleasant to work with API to add extensions. So apart from the algorithms that are already included with MARV, using that API, it's very straightforward to add your own algorithms. By that, you can be immediately productive and continue basically using the tools you know already, while the integration with MARV is minimal and straightforward. And in that, like having a system like MARV, it's a complex web application with a database behind it. But instead of worrying about database performance and the web application complexity, you simply focus on your algorithms and let MARV handle the rest.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I do have another question. What kind of data formats does MARV support?
So MARV is well integrated with Apex OS and it supports ROS out of the box, both ROS 1 and ROS 2. So apart from that, it is very easy, trivial to add support for other formats, including, for example, PCAP or CSV files, or really any other format. And also to proprietary formats that um, you may have as a customer that has been developed or extended in-house from other standard formats.
Well, thank you, Sanjay. There is another question, a couple actually questions. Uh, how well does MARV integrate with other tools? I think this is a big one.
As a first part, like in an enterprise landscape, it's important to integrate with the authentication mechanisms, and MARV does that. So your users can log into MARV with their usual company logins. And further, MARV has APIs to query its states, query data sets, trigger actions, and by that it allows to be integrated in your overall pipeline and to interact with other systems you have at your company. One typical use case could be what Sanjay was talking about before, the labeling tools. So as part of a labeling workflow for retraining networks, MARV integrates very well. Another use case is that you, for example, link from a data set to specific specific issues in a GitLab or Jira, some issue tracking system with which you could use it to coordinate a test ride. Like, why is my car going out at the moment? What software version is running on that car right now? Are there specific things to look into? What do we need to take care of? Are there edge cases to test? And once the car is coming back, the data is uploaded into MARV and will be automatically linked to your issue, your task management system. And by that, you can see which software version performed in what way, whether the checks that had to be done were performed, and you can plan your next car ride. And that way, you achieve a very tight integration of your software development and data management workflows.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Florian. Another question that's rolling in, can MARV Automotive run in the cloud? And how about premise?
Yes, MARV Automotive can run on-premise or in the cloud. So it doesn't really matter where your data is. Companies often want to run some analytics on-premise and upload a smaller amount of higher business value data to a more expensive cloud service where more people can share and run more advanced analytics on them. And MARV can be used in any of these workflows, in any of these cases, as well as purely in the cloud for additional analytics. So MARV is agnostic to where your data actually is. The front end being web-based means that MARV is extremely accessible for any developers, no matter where they are, at the same time or at different times. And all of them can collaborate. Your entire company can collaborate on all of these data using MARV.
Great, thanks, Sanjay. We have a couple of questions about features. What does the DMV reporting feature do? Can anyone explain that one?
Yes, I can elaborate on that. Sanjay briefly mentioned the DMV before, the DMV reporting feature. According to California law, companies need to file reports to the DMV regarding autonomous vehicles. So it is necessary to report disengagements of the autonomous system and the reason for the disengagement. And MARV supports here the full workflow from while the vehicle is driving, data is recorded. Once the vehicle is coming back, this data is uploaded and the disengagements are detected for these uploaded data sets. Then there are specialized views which help you classify these disengagements based on information available around them, around these events. And you will generate a report directly from MARV for all your vehicles ready to be filed with the DMV.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy that one. Another question: how can we try MARV? Like, how can we do that?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, MARV is based on open source. So, the open source project is called MARV Robotics, which was open sourced by Tenaris and is available for developers to download and use free of cost. The MARV Automotive edition that we're talking about here has additional features specifically for automotive developers, and that is actually available directly as a licensed product. Contact Apex AI to request more information about MARV Automotive.
Awesome. Well, it's time for our audience questions. I don't think that there's too many. I think a lot of them are just hi and hellos, but we are also kind of running out of time. Do you guys have any more insights about MARV or anything else that you want to kind of elaborate to our audience?
Speaking of the open source version, Sanjay just touched upon, we a while back, as part of the AutoWare course hosted by Apex AI, we had a full session on MARV Automotive. Basically, no, it was not the automotive specific, but there we're showing how to use the MARV Robotics Community Edition to set it up. It's a full 1-hour tutorial with a screencast, basically, where you will be led through the process of setting up MARV Community Edition and how to integrate TensorFlow as a neural network to detect objects and have an overlay of videos shown in the MARV web front end. So this is a small taste of what MARV Automotive, the enterprise level version, can do for you.
That's great information. And again, we thank you guys for joining us.